50 Strat presents Hearthstone. Hello, 50 here. Today I want to talk about Hearthstone. Hearthstone is a free-to-play collectible card game created by Blizzard Entertainment. It's based off the Warcraft universe, so for anyone familiar with the Warcraft franchise, many of the characters and items may seem familiar. Hearthstone recently began its first official season, so I thought now is a good time to release an introductory video for anyone who's interested in playing or just wants to learn more about the game. The following 3-part series will cover everything from the basics to more advanced topics and will prepare you to tear up the ladder in no time. This game bears many similarities with other card games, such as Magic the Gathering, but has much simpler mechanics allowing for even the most casual players to pick it up fairly quickly. At the start of every match, each player assumes the identity of one of 9 heroes, often referred to as classes. Each hero comes with specific cards exclusive to their class, as well as a unique hero ability, which can be used once per turn. In order to play cards and hero abilities, players must manage mana, the resource system in Hearthstone. At the beginning of every turn, a player is automatically granted 1 additional mana gem, up to a maximum of 10, and all existing mana gems are replenished. For example, on turn 4 of a game, a player will be granted a 4th mana gem, and any mana they spend on the previous turn will be refreshed, leaving them with 4 mana to spend. Any unspent mana does not carry over, and a player can never have more than 10 mana. Before playing a match, each player must create a 30-card deck. However, before going into deck building, let's break down some cards to review what all the numbers and symbols mean. There are only 2 types of cards in Hearthstone: spells and creatures. Spells have text within the body of the card that explain what the card does. In this example, Brawl is a spell. Creatures can be identified by their attack and health shown on the bottom corners of the card. The number within the yellow orb represents the attack, and the number in the red blood drop represents the creature's health. In the case of Crazed Alchemist, it has an attack of 2 as well as a health of 2. Every single card in the game also has its casting cost shown in the top left corner of the card. This number represents how much mana playing said card will cost. In the case of Crazed Alchemist, this card costs 2 mana, and in the case of Brawl, it costs 5. Using these spells and creatures, a player must create a 30-card deck. The deck may not contain any more or any less than 30 cards. At the start of the game, a hidden coin toss is performed to decide who goes first and who goes second. The player going first is shown 3 cards, and out of those 3, he may choose to randomly place none, 2, or all 3 cards. This is to help counter getting bad draws, and it's usually common to replace high-cost cards for more affordable ones in the beginning of the match. Statistics show that a player who goes first generally has a very slight advantage, so to make up for that, the player who goes second is given an option of 4 cards. Just like player 1, he's allowed to randomly replace any number of those 4 cards, and is also given a card called the coin. The coin is automatically added to your hand and costs 0 mana to play, while providing the player with the free mana for the turn. Once the game begins, the ultimate point of Hearthstone is to bring your opponent's health to 0. Just like the creatures have a set health, each player begins with 30 health at the beginning of each match. A player's health can never go above 30, although there is a mechanic called armor available for some classes, which effectively serve as health and doesn't have a limit. Classes like warriors and druids can use hero abilities and certain card abilities to build up armor on top of their health. Armor is represented by a shield above the hero's health and serves as a first line of defense. In order for the opponent to reduce a hero's health, he must work his way through any armor that the opponent has. So if an opponent has 4 armor and 10 health, an attack of 6 would break all 4 of the armor and deal 2 damage, reducing the player's health to 8. Damage can be dealt through spells or direct attacks from creatures, and the game ends when a player's health is reduced to 0. There's a maximum limit of 7 creatures on either side of the field, so the player needs to keep that in mind if playing multiple creatures. However, due to the short lifespan of most creatures, this rarely becomes an issue. There's also a hand limit of 10 cards for each player, and if a card is drawn while the player has 10 cards, it will go directly to the graveyard instead of the hand. Unlike some games which cause an automatic loss if a player can no longer draw a card from the deck, Hearthstone introduced a mechanic called fatigue. For each card a player attempts to draw after they run out of cards, they are dealt fatigue damage to their health. So if a player at 10 health has no cards left in his deck and attempts to draw a card, they'll be dealt 1 damage, bringing them down to 9. Fatigue damage also increases every time it is triggered, meaning if that same player attempts to draw another card, they'll be dealt 2 damage, and then 3, and then so on. The gameplay itself is fairly simple and easy to pick up. Unless specified on the card, a player can cast spells directly at their opponent or at a creature. Creatures can similarly attack other creatures or directly deal damage to the opposing hero. In some cases, heroes themselves can attack minions and other heroes directly as well. Each player must use his strategic abilities to decide how he wants to use his resources. Some strategies may involve rushing down the opponent with high-paced play that has little regard for anything other than dealing a lot of damage as fast as possible. Other strategies include a slower style of play that focuses on negating an opponent's moves and slowly whittling down the opponent's health. Every style has its strengths and weaknesses, and it's up to each player to decide which works best for them. For a more detailed explanation of deck building and different strategies, check out part 2 where we build a deck together and walk through the different approaches one can take. For any other comments, questions, or concerns, feel free to leave a message down below or reach out on Twitter at 50strat.